Well, this is a big breaking update. What we are learning with the French military and intelligence have reportedly uncovered an alleged effort by China to damage the global reputation and sales of its Rafale fighter jets through targeted disinformation campaign. Now, the campaign that was allegedly carried out via Chinese embassies and military diplomats who sought to discourage other nations from purchasing Rafale aircraft and instead purchase Chinese-made jets. Reports claim that defense attaches from Chinese embassies around the world actively lobbied foreign governments, urging them to reconsider their ongoing or potential Rafale deals. Now, these efforts come at a time when Rafale exports have become a major source of revenue for France's defense sector and a strategic tool in strengthening diplomatic relationships, particularly with India and with other Asian nations, where China seems to be aggressively expanding its influence. Now, as far as did China use its embassies to undermine Rafale sales right after India-Pakistan tensions, what is being said that China deployed its embassies to spread doubts, to spread rumors about the performance of the French-made Rafale jets after they saw the combat during India-Pakistan Operation Sindoor. And this is a conclusion that it seems the French military and intel officials have now reached to. Now, what is being said that this was an event, that this was an attempt, Pranesh, rather to undermine Rafale sales, seek to persuade countries not to purchase as far as Rafale is now concerned, and in a way to project their own fighter jets to the other nations.
Why are we surprised? Look, this is the classic disinformation tactic that the Dragon adopts and unleashes. And after the Operation Sindoor conflict, war, whatever you want to call it, the Chinese were in an overdrive to undermine Rafale because, you see, Rafale boosted the morale of our braves. It gave us the firepower that we needed to take on the Pakistani military. And if you know the sequence of events, in fact, the episodes that we've seen in the last 2 months, they've said very clearly on multiple occasions, experts have come out to say that 81%, and you have our top general going on record just a few days ago, Amita, that over 81% of the Pakistani military hardware was made in China. And you know what Indian Air Force and our forces did to Pakistani establishment. Everything was blown to smithereens. The Chinese weapons were no match for, our resolve. Major Gaurav Arya is also joining you, Amita. If you could, take this to him. Yeah. This is classic disinformation by the Chinese.
Absolutely. Major Gaurav Arya is connected with us right now. So is Pathikrit Pen. But we want to discuss Major Gaurav Arya, especially when it comes to military officials and research that have been digging in for details exactly when it comes to Pakistan's Chinese-made military hardware, particularly warplanes and air combat missiles, have faced against India. Of course, they have been decimated.
No, absolutely. And this is exactly why, Amita, the Chinese people, this is what the French intelligence report says, that this is exactly why the Chinese went on this massive disinformation campaign across all their embassies worldwide. And they said that Rafale is a substandard aircraft and it's not to be bought. Hey, we are giving you the example of Operation Sindoor, where 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 of these aircrafts are blown out of the sky. And, I've been analyzing this for a very long time. This was not the script that the Pakistanis wrote. This was written by the Chinese, but read out by the Pakistanis, and the Pakistanis did it very well. There were a lot of Indians who were questioning. I personally received so many phone calls that, how many Rafales have we lost and why did we buy Rafales in the first place? This is classic Chinese disinformation, whereas the truth is that none of their platforms, except for Operation Sindoor, none of their platforms are battle-tested. No Chinese platform is battle-tested.
Absolutely, and that was made absolutely clear when it comes to the Deputy Chief of Staff there. Pathikrit, what do we make as far as is this regional power play that we are looking at? Sales of Rafales and other armaments are a big business for France's defense industry, and they help the efforts by the government in Paris to strengthen ties with other nations, including that in China. Is China now here playing the role of a dominant regional power?
Well, there are two aspects to it. First and foremost, China itself is trying to, emerge as a major defense manufacturer player globally, so they compete with many of the other products of other countries. Whereas the reason that in most cases Chinese products are taken by certain countries, especially third world countries, is because they are cheaper. But the fact that they have actually got their image has terribly got dented as it is, in any case it was not very good. So there has been these things done by the Chinese to actually save their own market, number one. Secondly, disinformation warfare has always been a critical aspect of Chinese war games and the entire war theater they are part of. Because in most cases you would see in the last 30, 40 years, China has never got physically involved in a conflict. They always have done what is called using a borrowed knife, as yesterday General Rahul Singh also mentioned. Day before yesterday in one of his speeches. Secondly, the fact is that psychologically they try to overwhelm their opponents by all kind of disinformation. They try to overwhelm them. They try to psychologically put them on the back burner, on the backtrack. And at the same time, let's also put it, the reality is there is a section within India who would try to latch on into any information to defame Rafale, to start politics all over again on Rafale. That's why Rafale, which is considered to be one of the best planes in the world in its category, and it has a stellar performance. In spite of the performance, the kind of negative PR it gets, I think it is important on India's part to counter it on time. Yes. I congratulate the PIB, trying to, fact check these things, but it has to be done at the most appropriate time, the moment this disinformation comes in. Yes. The space at which it goes on, even if you
but to go to such an extent to using their embassies when it comes to pushing their disinformation campaign. Pratikit, thank you very much for your point of view. Major Gaurav Arya, what has now been said that one border was shared, but there are multiple adversaries. Would it actually go to such and when pushing back against what they allege was a concerted campaign of Rafale bashing and disinformation online that was now coming from Pakistan and its all-weather friend China?
No, absolutely. Absolutely, you're right, Amita. See, the Indian Army has always been, and the armed forces rather, have always been planning on collusivity, which is Pakistan and China together. There was a time when we used to say China to the east and Pakistan to the west. Now it's China to the east and China to the west. Pakistan is simply China's proxy, and Erdogan has got his own agenda. He wants to take Turkey back to the Ottoman Empire and all of that. And this is a fight between Turkey and Saudi Arabia for the leadership of the Muslim world. Now, coming back to Pakistan and China, what has happened is that China never comes in the front. China will never say, I'm putting troops on the ground, but China will keep on funding third-party players to cause damage to India. And why is that? Because India, the way the Indian economy is growing, the way Indian diplomatic space is growing, China sees India as a verifiable threat, something that is right in front, right next door, which poses a threat. So this entire disinformation campaign by China, you see, in fact, in this recent Rising Lion, Operation Rising Lion, it was Iran that was disillusioned quite a lot because Iran imagined that China and Russia would come to its aid. China said, fine, we'll give you money, we'll give you weapons, we'll give you technology, but don't think that we're going to send our troops. Or the Chinese comments came 7 to 8 days after the Israelis had started bombing. When America got involved, 10 days later when America got involved, that was the time when China actually started these editorials in Global Times and such other things. So, in fact, Iran was very, very disillusioned with the Chinese response. They expected a much more robust response. So that is China for you, They are happy to throw Pakistan under the bus. The day Pakistan from an asset becomes a liability, the Chinese will be the first ones to throw Pakistan under the bus. Currently, Pakistan serves their purpose.
So basically, it was an experiment for the Chinese to look at it in a front, saying that it was a live laboratory to test as far as their weapons are concerned in the ongoing India-Pakistan tensions, playing in the background, extending that supporting role. Pratibha, coming to you on that, French intelligence services has been saying rather that Chinese embassy defense attaches were echoing the same narrative.
So the Chinese toolkit stands exposed, but the PIB has done a fact check. So let me quickly run our viewers through that. It says India admits Rafale pilot loss. Here's the truth behind the claim. And it has also given out the details of the handles that were propagating the same. It says several Pakistani propaganda handles are spreading false claims that India has officially confirmed the loss of 4 IAF pilots, including those flying 3 Rafale jets. And then the PIB fact check goes on to say this is a fake alert. The government of India has issued no such statement. There is no truth to these rumors. Don't fall for misinformation. Always cross-verify with official sources before or sharing any such claims.
Pranesh, this is also then can be considered as an act of war, this kind of a disinformation campaign, that Rafale was in particular targeted by a vast campaign of disinformation coming from the Chinese side?
This is a classic Chinese cheap thrill tactic, and Major Arya was right when he said that this is known. What is not known is that apart from what they do diplomatically, like you said out before you tossed to Pratibha, you said that the defense attaches on their part and in their capacity were trying to push through this narrative. While all of that can happen, and countries do push their agenda, which is why we had our delegation going across other countries to tell the world our story. What is troubling in this case is that, look, Pakistan is a failed country, does not have the wherewithal, the machinery, even common sense to do psyops. The Chinese supported them. If you read the intel report carefully, what is reported, what is in public domain, it is clear that the Chinese helped them with, AI generated videos. So you had a video, or, you had a situation where you had multiple videos that showed that, look, Rafale was blown to smithereens, the debris of the Rafale falling scattered here and there. That is concerning because this will not stop at Rafale. I don't know if Major Arya can hear me. Major Arya, if you could, shed more light on that. This will not stop at Rafale.
No, absolutely. This will not stop at Rafale. China has done it before. China has done it in Kashmir. China does it very frequently when there is some sort of a conflict between political parties. China, see, there is this 3 warfare doctrine which China has dovetailed into its military doctrine. It's called the 3 warfare doctrine, in which there is media warfare, there is legal warfare, and there is psychological warfare. And China does this actually as part of its military doctrine. So use of media, use of social media, use of AI tools to cause disinformation. Let us never forget that it was Sun Tzu who said that all warfare is based on deception. That is what Sun Tzu said. And this is exactly what the Chinese follow. Everything is deception. So what happened when they showed the so-called AI-generated debris of the Rafale? The first thing that happened is that the morale of Indians went down, and they suddenly said that, our Rafales have gone down, which was not the case. But the Chinese managed to convince a large majority of the Indians that the Rafales were blown out of the sky by superior Chinese weapons. This is what China does every time, and exactly what China did in Operation Sindoor, and we should have been prepared. Unfortunately, we were militarily prepared, but we were not prepared for China's psychological assault.
Well, that has been made clear. Over 80% of Pakistani military is actually, when it comes to their weaponry, is coming from China. As far as this Chinese defense systems are also concerned, they were decimated by India in Lahore. We've seen those pictures, but this is something that China will never showcase to the world. And of course, when it comes to the other the supporting actor role that was also played by Turkey. Major Gaurav Arya, appreciate you joining us here on the broadcast. Rishabh and Sabyasachi are also connected with us. Rishabh, this is now said to be a concerted campaign of Rafale bashing and disinformation online that seems to be taking place by Pakistan at the behest of its friend China.
Well, if we talk about Rafale is weapon that India has, and since the origin of this whole Rafale deal between India and France, the countries like China and Pakistan have been rattled. And in the Operation Sindoor, Rafale has shown its mantle. The way the weapons were used, be it the BrahMos or for other matters that Pakistan has been talking about, the way India has hit deep in Pakistan using aircrafts like Rafale and Mirage, or for that matter Su-30. China do understand that India's weaponry is evolving
Let me just interrupt you, Rishabh. Lieutenant General Chaturvedi is connected with us. Good morning to you, sir. This is coming in as a big news. Chinese old tactics is concerned, why do you believe that Rafale in particular was targeted? Was it because that it represents strategic French offering, or why it is as far as undermining the credibility of France and its defense industrial technological base and its relations with India is now being questioned by Pakistan and China?
You are absolutely correct. That's the basic reason. The commercial part, the strategic relationship, these are the main routes on which they want to attack. China is very much aware that whatever they gave to Pakistan, it did not function. Their radars, the air defense weapon system, their aircrafts, they were all badly destroyed and damaged by Indian armed forces. Pakistan, as far as their credibility goes, it's not from today. 1971 war, I remember their radio. It was the television was not there, but that was called the Radio of Jhutistan. So that is the way how it comes. But today, it has taken a much more sophisticated system that it has evolved, and they want to manage perception, they want to manage psychological war, and that is where we need to now react and ensure that the truth comes out. Whatever our DG Air operations that they in his briefing
going to
just
the extent
immediately
of using their embassies, their defense attaches to spread this disinformation campaign already raises a lot of questions. Appreciate you joining us here on the broadcast, Lieutenant General Chaturvedi. We have Sabyasachi as well. Sabyasachi, when the question arises, ke kitne Rafale gire? Now, who is actually playing to the gallery, especially when it comes to the narrative that is being said by Pakistan and China?
Well, that's right. See, time and again, several of the leaders from the opposition have been raising this issue that how many Rafale jets were down. And this particular narrative, time and again, which the BJP has highlighted, that supports the narrative of Pakistan. But despite the clarification coming in from our defense forces that no pilot even lost their life, but despite that, time and again, the opposition has been raising to this issue. In fact, the opposition also planning to raise up this issue in the upcoming session of monsoon session, where they are planning to ask the central government that how many Rafale jets were downed in Operation Sindoor, and that is a very point which the opposition till now is sticking to, despite time and again solid confirmation as with proof coming in from our defense forces. But despite the clarification from our defense forces or central government, the opposition doesn't want to believe this, and they still want to question that how many Rafale jets did went down during Operation
Questions
Sindoor.
again echo as far as on the floor of the House with the upcoming monsoon session of Parliament remains to be seen. Rishabh, Sabyasachi, Pranesh and Pratibha, thank you very much for joining in. We head into a short break.